What is up, Watch Fam? Happy Monday, and welcome to this week's episode of RANT&H. Welcome to this week's episode of RANT&H. I am Christian from Theo and Harris.
And I'm Anna from Theo and Harris.
And today we're going to be talking about two of the watch industry's maybe most underrated brands. It's a really exciting conversation, so let's do it. All right, before we jump into these two incredibly undervalued, underappreciated, under-recognized brands, let's do a quick wristwatch check. What do you have on your wrist?
I have actually what I consider to be a relatively underrated,
Very underrated.
Genta design, the Universal Genève Pole Router. It's one of my favorite watches, and this example is totally gorgeous. It has a beautiful dial. It's patinated, like it's gradated from chocolate to caramel. It's beautiful.
I mean, just think about it. I mean, the Pole Router, which is Gerald Genta's first watch design, is a part of the Genta family, right? It
100%.
is a part of some of the most significant watches of all time, namely Audemars Piguet's Royal Oak and Patek Philippe's Nautilus. And the best examples of this watch, like this is to probably one of the best examples in solid yellow gold and gorgeous patina. Top of the line is like under $4,500. Now you can't own the best of the line of a significant watch for that kind of money elsewhere. But in the Pole Router market, they're appreciated, but not where they should be. Just not at all.
Right.
So this watch, as you know, is available in the Theo and Harris watch shop. It's actually been there for a little while, which I kind of knew when I acquired it, because again, they're not appreciated by everyone, but there's going to be some lucky person out there that appreciates it. And
there's going to be that person that knows.
And
oh my God,
right.
That's it. That's
and until then, you and I will enjoy it. I'm wearing something awesome, yellow gold, date just reference 1601 on a solid gold jubilee, something that is also available in the Theo and Harris watch shop, something that we actually debated last week.
Yeah, we did a Change My Mind last Monday about whether or not, a 22-year-old can own a gold Rolex.
Right, that 22-year-old being kind of me.
Being this one, probably.
Okay, so I challenged you to think of an underrated brand. Right, there are so many watch brands. There are so many incredible watches. Value does get lost. In the vintage world, where we curate, there's a lot of value. But in the modern world, it's hard to find it.
Yeah.
It's hard.
Definitely there, though. I mean, there are a lot of brands. Not saying these are the only ones,
No, and there are a lot of watches within brands. You can get a JLC perpetual calendar, gray market, pre-owned, for like $12,000 or $13,000. That's a lot of watch. There's value there. But we didn't choose JLC. You went one way, I went another. So tell me about the underrated brand that you picked.
Yeah, so I picked a brand that I actually didn't know too much about before, researching for this topic, and it's Habring. Habring is a husband and wife team. It's Richard and Maria, and they're in Austria, and it's just the two of them making watches together. It's really incredible. Richard actually has over 20 years of experience. He constructed movements for IWC and for Lange, actually.
Wow.
Yeah, so he has definitely a lot of experience in the industry, and they decided to just band together and do it by themselves.
So what is it that they actually manufacture?
So their mission from the beginning was to make really fine complications and beautiful design founded on very simple base elements, so maybe standard movements, but ones that are really reliable, and then be able to sort of add these extra characteristics that make them really fine, like really nice finishing and decoration and more thoughtful design, but have that sort of fundamental base so that the prices wouldn't be crazy.
Okay, price-wise, what are we talking about?
Like,
depending on the model, of course.
Yeah, depending on the model, it does vary, but it's around like $5,000.
Wow.
For these watches, and they really are beautiful. In 2014, Habring released their 10-year anniversary watch. It was called the Felix, and it was the first watch that featured their in-house movements that they used from then on.
Okay.
Which were the A11 series. So all of their movements now are in the A11 series.
So they make their own movements.
They make their own movements. So it's all it's based on the Valjoux 7750 or 7760. So that they didn't totally invent this. It is based on that, but they add all of the customization, and it's either done by them or like other
they're heavily modified.
Other local, very small craftsmen even like in the area.
Okay.
So it's, they do everything by hand now. Until then they used, ETA or and Valjoux movements, but then they started making their own. So this watch that they released for their 10th anniversary is called the Felix. I think it's beautiful. It's 38 millimeters. I think it's beautiful. It's really simple. You can just tell that they really value high quality, non-dramatic, just really elegant and classic design, and they want them to be affordable. Although they don't release very many. They produce maybe no more than like 80 watches a year.
Wow, that's very cool.
Yeah. Which is really cool.
Well, you're talking about a very hands-on, very personal company that's producing reliable and in many cases innovative.
Yeah,
watches.
All of them are different. They add a new element to each model they release, and I think that it's very telling that they've stuck to their mission, because usually when brands release like limited edition or just only 80 a year, that will increase the price. They design each to be thoughtful and really well made and really well finished, but still maintain that
level of affordability.
So that normal, quote unquote normal people can have access to beautiful craftsmanship.
Great. Thank you for bringing that to my attention. I know about Habring, and I know they existed. I've looked at some press releases, but no, I did not know what you just presented me with. So thank you.
And actually, another thing, they are really well known in the sort of like tight-knit, like high niche watch community. They've received many awards, for their price categories.
Okay.
Like overall, like best watch, best chronograph,
Oh wow.
And they're, in 2014, 2012, they've done really well, and they are really recognized, but it's very, very niche.
Right.
So
well, the price point doesn't seem like it correlates to, the quality.
Exactly.
Especially in a world, like we live in with watches that $9,000 doesn't get you all that much sometimes. You lose sight of value. So it's very cool. The brand that I chose was something that's very different, something that is a little, although personal in many ways, a little colder, a little bit more over-engineered, something less familial and just very, German engineering,
Love it.
I really do love it too. It's so not me. That's not what I like to do, or like how I like to do things or live my life, but I love German watches. I love Lange & Söhne, but I couldn't pick Lange & Söhne because of the price point, and I don't think that many of their watches represent value per se.
I don't know that they're underrated either.
No, Lange & Söhne is a big brand that gets a ton of attention. But you've got Glashütte Original, right? A truly German, and not just truly German, distinctly Glashütte brand. It was very interesting in doing my research about Glashütte Original. I found a lot of information when the Glashütte brands, which basically came to be in the second half of the 19th century, which were totally inspired by the Swiss, but the Germans wanted to redo it. In fact, I believe it was Ferdinand Lange or a Lange ancestor that started the entire process here in Glashütte. And started the entire culture. They gave Glashütte such an incredible name for mechanical, watches. The name itself became kind of a marketing tool for non-Glashütte brands. And I believe that non-Glashütte brands, as are trying to ride the wave of the Glashütte fame, we're using system Glashütte, which reminds me, like bringing back to my dad in Liquor Run, to Méthode Champenois. Right? You can make, a sparkling wine in California under the Champenois method, but it's not champagne. But because it's kind of a marketing, dance, they can almost get the credit for being champagne without being champagne. So Glashütte Original became the clarifying point. No, we're not system Glashütte. We don't do things like Glashütte. We are Glashütte. This is our DNA. We invented it. We were there. This is the birthplace of this this method for designing and creating wristwatches. Fast forward until today, and they haven't lost that. My complaints about Glashütte Original are I can count on fingers. Nothing. I mean, their complaints are so minimal. Their price points are wonderful. Their watches are well designed. Their movements are in-house. Their movements are incredibly finished and decadent. Sure, are they in many instances poor man's Lange? Sure, fine, whatever, because their designs are so similar. But damn, that's not a bad thing to be. If you are producing, the poor man's Lange and it's fucking incredible for a fraction of the price, that's a compliment. And Yes, Glashütte Original is owned by Swatch Group and does get attention in big, in mass, right? But it's still a brand that is, in my opinion, while maybe known, very overlooked. It's not a brand I see on the wrist all that often. It's not a brand that I hear watch geeks, professing their love for. Definitely. Even though they deserve it.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think that it's known, and sometimes you hear about a watch they've released, but it's definitely not one that comes to the surface when you talk about like big brands and waxing poetic about watches. Do you have any examples of like your favorite model or like watches that really stand out?
Right now, I could tell you kind of the variety of their success. Right. Yeah. Start all the way with the Senator 60s, which is I believe just a 3-hand automatic wristwatch. The price point, they can be had in the $4,000-ish to $5,000-ish $1,000. The movements are absolutely incredible. You won't find these movements that are decorated to this level in Rolex. You won't find it even in JLC in many cases. You won't find this level in Nomos. You won't find this level in almost all of their price point competitors. Right? My one criticism on that watch is the movement is undersized, but still a complaint that we can get over. Take it up a notch, go to a complication. You have their Panomatic series. So you have the Panomatic Lunar and the Panomatic Reserve. I'm not exactly sure where these watches retail, but I can tell you they trade around $7,000 to $9,000, which is incredible. The entire watch from movement all the way to dial and hands, it is incredibly beautiful, incredibly complicated, and finished to kind of the highest degree. Incredible. They have chronographs as well. It kind of doesn't end. The quality within the Glashütte Original production is mind-blowing, and they don't get the attention they deserve. Consider their Hand 8. I've considered their Senator 60s. These are incredible watches, and if bulky, over-engineered, supremely finished German watches are your thing, and they aren't everyone's. They really aren't. But if they are, then it's a very serious brand you should be looking at more closely.
Now, I have an ending question for you. So I know that Habring spends, at least a couple years ago it was written, that they spend virtually no money at all on marketing. They do not prioritize it at all. Their website's kind of hard to read. It's a little indistinct. It's hard to find where the watches are sold. So that kind of makes sense to me why people don't really know about Habring, why it's not really talked about that much. Does Glashütte Original have the same problem? It's a good question. Why is it that these fantastic movements and this fantastic finishing isn't publicized everywhere?
I think it comes down to design in many ways. Although, in my opinion, extremely appealing. I think that they are not undersized. They're very modern in their sizing. And like I said, their value is there. Still, their aesthetic is not necessarily mass market. It's more geeky. Their aesthetic has nothing to do with a Submariner. It's got nothing to do with, the style in the world that sells so easily to the average person. I think you have to be really interested in watches to want the Glashütte Original. And you know what? That may suck for them and their bottom line, but for watch geeks, it's a wonderful opportunity. So that's it. Thank you so much for sitting down and bringing all this awesome information with you. And thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed, please like this video. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel at Theo and Harris. It's that little red button below if you want to hear us wax a little bit more poetic about watches.
And make sure you check out the watch shop at theoandharris.com for amazing watches like this yellow gold Rolex Datejust and this Universal Genève Pull Router.
Thank you so much.